You don't really remember most Sundays. You remember the one where a stranger called your phone and told you your wife wasn't your wife anymore. It was one of those quiet Colorado Sundays I used to think I'd earned. Orange light coming in sideways through the blinds. The late game humming low on the TV. The smell of yesterday's barbecue still hanging in the house. Kelly was on the other end of the couch, legs under a blanket, blue light from her iPad on her face. From 10 feet away, it looked like a picture of normal. Stability. A life that made sense. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. Normally, I let those die. Spam, sales, wrong numbers, none of them my problem. For some reason, that night I picked it up. Yeah, this is Matt. Silence for a second. Not dead air breathing. Tight, controlled. Matt, hi. My name is Emily. Emily Blake. Do you have a second? The way she said my name made something in my chest tighten. I muted the TV with my thumb. Out of the corner of my eye, Kelly didn't even look up. Sure, I said. What's going on? Another pause. You can hear when someone's about to change your life. There's this little drag in their voice, like they're trying to pull the words uphill. I'm Ryan Blake's wife, she said. Ryan. The name sat there for a moment, empty. Then it clicked. Kelly's work friend. The guy from the marketing agency she kept bringing up. The funny one. The one who got her sense of humor. I shifted forward, elbows on my knees. Okay. Her voice got flatter, like she'd rehearsed it and was just trying to get through the script without throwing up. I'm really sorry to do this over the phone, but I don't know any other way. I'm calling because I found out my husband has been having an affair with your wife. With Kelly. Across the room, Kelly laughed at something on her screen. Small, easy laugh. My ears started ringing. What did you say? I asked. My voice didn't even crack. Came out low, steady. I remember being almost annoyed at how calm it sounded. Emily kept going, like she had to get the whole thing out before I hung up. They've been seeing each other for months. I have proof, texts, hotel receipts, screenshots, location data. I didn't want to believe it at first either. But your name came up. Your schedule. Your trips. I looked at Kelly. 10 feet of carpet between us. She was scrolling. One hand wrapped around a mug. Sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder. My wife. My ring on her finger. My last 7 months playing back in my head like a security tape I'd never bothered to watch. I put the phone on speaker and set it next to my leg, thumb hovering near the button in case Kelly looked over. She didn't. AirPods in. She was in her own little world. How long? I asked. 7 months that I can prove, Emily said. Probably longer. Every time you were out of town, every girls' night, that lined up with Ryan's late meetings. I can send you everything. But I didn't want to just dump it on you without warning. 7 months. The number landed harder than the word affair. 7 months of me working late, catching early flights, telling myself this grind was for us. 7 months of her saying miss you while booking hotels with someone else. I swallowed. My mouth was dry. What do you want from me? I said. Nothing, she answered quickly. You don't owe me anything. I couldn't look at all this and let you stay in the dark. If you give me a private email, I'll send it there. Not a shared one. You'll need to see it first. Private email. Like we were planning a hit. I grabbed the notepad we used for grocery lists and a pen from the coffee table drawer. My hand shook just enough that I noticed. Okay, I said. I read out an old Gmail I'd made in college. One Kelly didn't even know existed. Emily repeated it back, voice tightening again at the end. I'll send it in a few minutes. The subject line will have both their names. Yeah, I said. Okay. There was a beat where neither of us spoke. Just her breathing on one end, the dishwasher humming in the kitchen, the crowd noise from the muted game. Kelly snorted at something on her iPad, completely relaxed. I'm sorry, Matt, Emily said quietly. I know you don't know me, but I am. Yeah, I said. Thanks for telling me. I hung up. Kelly glanced over, pulled one AirPod out. Who was that? Wrong number, I said. Nothing important. She shrugged, put the AirPod back in, and went right back to her screen. I sat there with a dead phone in my hand, a stranger's voice echoing in my head, and a blank line of ink on a notepad that might as well have been a fuse. Whatever hit that inbox was going to blow up the life I thought I was living. If you want to know what it looks like when that fuse reaches the bomb, keep listening. Before that call, if you'd asked me who I was, I'd have given you a pretty boring answer. I was the guy up at 6 a.m. in Fort Collins, packing leftovers for lunch, checking traffic, and trying to beat the email flood before it hit. Operations and logistics manager. Fancy way of saying I made other people's promises actually happen. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid on time and kept the lights on in a 2-story house with beige siding and a backyard that always needed mowing. My life was routine. Commute, grind, late emails, drive home half listening to sports radio. 9 to whenever, I used to joke. I told myself that was what love looked like when you grew up. Stability instead of fireworks. The mortgage drafted on the first, the utilities auto-paid, the retirement account siphoning off a slice of every paycheck. Adults playing a long game. We had our someday plans. Someday we'd remodel the kitchen. Someday we'd take a real vacation without a laptop. Someday we'd finish the half-done shelving in the garage. That garage was like my brain. Projects started, put on hold, never urgent enough to finish because nothing seemed on fire. There were good memories. Cheap motels off the highway on road trips. Gas station coffee at 2 a.m. while Kelly sang off-key with her feet on the dashboard. Anniversaries where I'd write her letters about how I was in this for the long haul, how all this effort was building something solid for us. Then the shift. More girls' nights. More client dinners. Dresses that looked more like going out than networking. New perfume that hit the room before she did. Her phone, once dead on the counter by 9 p.m., now face down, do not disturb, always within reach. My gut started whispering. Little questions. Why so many late nights? Why the sudden privacy? Why the way she angled her body away when she texted? My brain talked over it. Don't be that guy. Don't be insecure. She deserves a life. You work a lot. You're tired. You're lucky she puts up with your schedule. So I doubled down. Took more chores. More overtime. Tried to earn closeness by carrying more weight. I thought if I just held everything steady long enough, whatever was off would correct itself. What I didn't realize was she'd already stepped off the team. I was playing both sides of the field, proud of my hustle, while she was out rewriting the rules. Back on that Sunday, after I hung up with Emily, the house didn't change. The TV still threw muted highlights across the room. The dishwasher hummed. Kelly shifted on the couch, scrolling, her toes nudging my leg like nothing in the world was off. The only difference was my heartbeat and the way the air felt heavier, like the house knew before I did. Wrong number? She asked again, eyes still on her iPad. Yeah, I said. Probably a survey or something. The lie came out smooth. Not because I'm a good liar, but because I needed a buffer. I needed time between the accusation and whatever came next. A few minutes later, she stretched. I'm gonna take a shower, she said, standing up, the blanket falling away. She kissed the top of my head, casual, like she hadn't just been named in another man's wife's mouth. Then she disappeared down the hall. Bathroom door shut, water on, fan humming. I was alone with the quiet and the truth I hadn't seen yet. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. New email. My hand shook when I picked it up. Not cartoon shaking, just enough that I had to adjust my grip. Inbox. One unread. From Emily Blake. Subject. Evidence, Kelly Walker and Ryan Blake. Seeing their names next to each other like that hit harder than any sentence she'd said on the phone. It felt clinical. Like an autopsy report. I opened it. There was a long message I barely registered. Her apologizing again, explaining how she found everything, how she double-checked before calling me. Underneath were folders, texts, locations, hotel confirmations, photos. I haven't clicked yet. I just stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Part of me still wanted it to be some huge misunderstanding. Maybe context would fix it. Maybe it was emotional, not physical. Maybe it was exaggerated. But underneath all that noise, A deeper part of me had already accepted it. You don't get subject lines like that if it's nothing. You don't get a stranger's voice shaking on the phone for some casual flirtation. Water pounded in the shower. The fan drowned. The house held its breath with me. I knew that the second I opened those folders and took in what was inside, there was no unseeing it. No going back to fine, or we'll work through it, or any of the lies men tell themselves to keep the peace. So I sat there in the half-dark living room, phone in my hand, right on the edge between the life I thought I had and the one I was about to step into, and I understood something simple and brutal. The man I'd been, the one who smoothed everything over, was already done. I just hadn't seen the paperwork yet. She came out of the shower in an oversized t-shirt, towel twisted in her hair, steam following her down the hallway. "What are you watching?" she asked, rubbing lotion into her legs like every other Sunday night of our marriage. I muted the TV completely and set the remote down. My phone was still in my hand, screen dark, but I could feel it like a weight. "That call," I said. "It wasn't a wrong number." She paused for half a second. Just half. Then she kept drying her hair. "Okay," she said. "Who was it?" "Her name's Emily," I said. "Emily Blake." "Nothing. Ryan Blake's wife." There it was. The flicker. It flashed through her eyes and tightened her jaw for a split second before she smoothed it over and turned to face me fully. "Ryan's wife?" she repeated, like she'd never heard of the woman. "Why is she calling you?" "She says you've been sleeping with her husband," I said. No yelling. No dramatics. Just dropping the sentence in the middle of the room and watching what it did. Kelly laughed. Too loud, too bright. "Are you serious right now? Oh my God. She's insane." She grabbed her phone off the end table. "She's been blowing up Ryan's phone, accusing him of all kinds of crap. She's paranoid and jealous. I told you about this." She hadn't. "She knows my business trips," I said. "My schedule. She knows the hotels you stayed in. She knows when you had girls' nights." Kelly rolled her eyes and flopped onto the armchair across from me. "Because she's been stalking him," she snapped. "She probably hacked his email or something. Ryan told me she's been going through his stuff and twisting everything. She's unwell, Matt." The way she said unwell made me want to break something. "She sent me proof," I said. "Emails, screenshots, receipts, location data." Her face shifted again, almost imperceptibly. Less offended, more calculating. "So what, you're just going to believe some random woman over your own wife?" she said. Her voice got softer, shakier. "After everything we've been through, you think I'd do that to you?" A year earlier, that tone would have gutted me. The tears welling up, the small tremor in her bottom lip. I'd have folded, apologized for even asking. Tonight, it just looked like a performance. "Where were you on March 12th? I asked. She blinked. "I don't know, Matt. That was months ago." "Friday. You said girls' night at that wine bar downtown." "I was in Phoenix. Emily has a hotel receipt for you and Ryan at the Marriott off I-25. Check-in at 7:42 p.m. Her jaw tightened. "We had drinks in the lobby. As friends. We'd been working late on a campaign, I told you that. I didn't want to upset you because you overreacted to everything." "June 3rd, I said. "You told me your client took the team out after the pitch." "I was in Dallas. She has you at the Hilton. Same exit. Same pattern." She shifted in the chair, arms crossing over her chest like armor. "This is insane," she said. "You're letting some bitter woman spin a story and now you're grilling me like a suspect. Do you hear yourself?" "July 22nd, I said. "You told me you were staying at Megan's after karaoke. You turned your location off. She's got screenshots of Ryan's map with your phone right on top of his." Her eyes went to the floor. Silence stretched. The house felt small. "How close did you and Ryan get, Kelly?" I asked. She swallowed. We got too close, okay? Emotionally. We vented about our marriages. It was stupid. But it wasn't like you're thinking. "Did you hook up?" She hesitated. "Once. I just watched her." "Maybe twice," she added quickly. "It was a mistake, Matt. I was lonely. You're never home, you're always working, and I felt invisible. He was there. He listened. It just happened. There it was, the shift. From denial to minimization to blaming the schedule that paid for the roof over our heads. You could have talked to me, I said. I tried. She shot back. You were checked out. You married your job. Do you have any idea what it's like to feel like a roommate? Like a maid? You think this is all on me? Before I could answer, my laptop on the coffee table chimed. New mail. Both of us looked at it. On the screen, a notification preview popped up. Subject: Evidence, Kelly and Ryan plus others. Plus others. The words sat there like a separate sentence. My stomach dropped, but my hand stayed steady as I reached for the laptop and opened it. Kelly stood up slowly, like she was walking toward an edge she hadn't realized was there. I clicked Emily's folder. Rows of messages, photos, group chats, comments with my name in them like a punchline. Matt, don't, Kelly said, voice small now. This is private. You're invading my privacy. I turned the screen just enough that the light hit her face. This is my life, I said. There's no privacy in jokes about how clueless your husband is. Her shoulders slumped, something in her finally giving up the act. The fight drained out of her eyes and was replaced by a flat, tired resignation. In that moment, before I even opened the first file, I understood two things. One, whatever she was about to confess wasn't a one-time mistake. Two, my trust hadn't just been broken, it had been entertainment. And you don't come back from being someone's running joke. I wish I could say I tore into the evidence like some action movie hero. I didn't. I just clicked and scrolled. The first folder was texts, bubbles, timestamps, emojis, normal at a glance. Then you read them. June 3rd, 7:14 p.m. Kelly. He has no idea. He thinks I'm at a team dinner, Ryan. Because he's a good little provider. Don't knock it. Kelly, he's predictable. I could set a clock for him. Predictable. Like I was a piece of furniture. There were others. Her complaining that I was boring, that I talked about work too much, that I made her feel dead inside, while Ryan made her feel alive. Lines about playing the good wife, when I was home so she could go out clean when I traveled. I opened the hotel confirmation. Marriott, Hilton. Same couple exits off the highway, same nights I was out of town or working late. Dinner charges, bar tabs, Uber rides. All the logistics lined up perfectly with my overtime and girls' nights. Then the photos. Nothing explicit, just enough. Kelly in hotel mirrors, dressed up in outfits I'd never seen. Different hair, heavier makeup, posing like someone auditioning for a life I wasn't invited to. A few shots of her legs on a bed, a drink in her hand, his shoes visible at the edge of the frame. I don't know how long I sat there before I clicked the second folder. Other partners, suspected. Names in file labels. Mark Johnson, Jim. Blake Rogers, real estate. Group chat screenshots with mentions of a Cole and a Troy. Half jokes about options. I turned the laptop toward her. Who's Mark? I asked. She sank back onto the arm of the chair. Just a guy from the gym. Blake. Someone I met at an open house. She whispered. Cole? Troy? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her face did it for her. Something in me went quiet then. The rage didn't disappear, it just cooled, hardened. This wasn't a lonely wife who slipped once and panicked. This was a side life, pattern, a system she ran while I covered the bills and the story. We're not sleeping under the same roof tonight, I said finally. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Flat, decided. She didn't argue, didn't beg, just nodded, eyes glassy, and went to the bedroom to pack a suitcase. I watched her walk down the hall with that bag and realized she looked more relieved than devastated. The pretending was over. So was the marriage. She left with one suitcase and a tote bag. The front door closed softly. No slam, no last word. Just the click of the latch and the sudden, heavy silence that followed. I stood there in the entryway for a full minute, listening like she might come back for something she forgot. She didn't. My brother Jake showed up 20 minutes later. I don't remember calling him. But I must have. He walked in, looked at my face and didn't ask a single question. Just wrapped his hand around the back of my neck, squeezed once and said, "I'm here if you need me." We sat at the kitchen table for a while, not talking about the details. He didn't push, I didn't volunteer. He just drank a beer, told me some story about a guy at his job screwing up a delivery, and gave me normal for half an hour. "You want me to stay?" he asked finally. I shook my head. "I'm good." He didn't believe it, but he respected it. Another squeeze on the shoulder, then he was gone. I walked through the house like it belonged to some other couple. Living room. The couch where she'd been texting other men with her feet in my lap. Kitchen. The island where she'd kissed me goodbye on her way to client dinners. Bedroom. I opened the door, stood in the frame, and couldn't make myself take a step inside. The bed looked staged, like furniture in a showroom. I grabbed an empty cardboard box from the garage and started collecting her stray stuff. Hair ties, a hoodie on the back of a chair, a stack of magazines, a makeup bag on the counter. Little pieces of a life that had already moved out before tonight. I crashed on the couch. No TV, no music, just the fridge kicking on and off and the occasional car passing outside. I didn't really sleep. I just went in and out, staring at the ceiling, feeling more empty than angry. For the first time in years, everything felt brutally honest. I was alone. Had probably been alone for a long time. I just hadn't admitted it. A week later, I was sitting in a leather chair across from a divorce attorney named Robert Jenkins. Clean desk, organized files, calm eyes that had seen this 100 times. "We'll need to pull full financials," he said. "Both of you. Bank accounts, credit cards, statements for the last couple of years." I handed over what I had. He requested the rest. A few days after that, he called me back into the office. "Did you know about this card?" he asked, sliding a printout across the desk. It was a credit account I'd never seen. Her name, same address, no authorized user listed. $18,000. Hotels, restaurants, gas, flights, clothing stores, charges that lined up perfectly with my business trips and overtime weeks. All those nights I told myself I was sacrificing for us. She was out burning money I hadn't even known we had. My throat went tight, but not from emotion. More like someone had slipped a belt around it and pulled. "So while I was killing myself at work," I said, "she was using marital funds for non-marital purposes." Robert finished clinical. "It matters. The court will see it." I stared at the numbers until they blurred. It hit me then that the betrayal wasn't just in her body or her words. It was in the ledger, in the way my effort, my hours, my missed dinners, my early alarms, had been converted into hotel rooms and bar tabs for other men. I walked out of that office understanding something I hadn't let myself say out loud. I hadn't just lost a wife. I'd been financing my own humiliation. The court doesn't feel like justice. It feels like waiting in line at the DMV to hear how broken your life is. The room was beige and tired. Other couples sat in rows, each with their own version of "we used to love each other," stacked in manila folders. Kelly sat at the opposite table in a soft blouse and light makeup, looking smaller than she ever did at home. Her attorney, Erica, had a sharp suit, sharp voice. When our case was called, Erica stood like she'd been rehearsing this monologue for weeks. "Your Honor," she started, "this is a case about emotional neglect. Mr. Walker is a hard worker, no one disputes that. But he chose his job over his marriage." Kelly was left alone, unsupported, starved for affection. Her actions, while regrettable, happened in the context of long-term abandonment. She said abandonment like I'd thrown Kelly on the side of a highway. Every late night, every trip, every overtime shift I told myself was for us got spun into a weapon. My 60-hour weeks turned from sacrifice into evidence of cruelty. Kelly dabbed at her eyes right on cue, looking wounded and fragile. When it was our turn, Robert didn't raise his voice. He just opened the binder. "Exhibit A," he said. Text messages where Mrs. Walker refers to her husband as clueless, boring, and dead to her, while detailing how she uses his business trips to meet multiple partners. He walked the judge through the screenshots. The hotel bookings that matched my travel, the location data, the secret credit card. He didn't editorialize. He didn't need to. At one point, the judge adjusted his glasses and read a line out loud. He's predictable. I could set a clock for him. Perfect cover. He looked up at Kelly. You wrote this about your husband? Erica tried to wave it off as dark humor between friends. The judge didn't bite. This isn't a joke, he said. This is sustained deception and financial misconduct using marital funds. For the first time in months, someone with authority said out loud what I'd been feeling in my bones. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I'd been lied to, systematically, by someone who benefited from my trust. In the end, the ruling came down. Assets divided, sure, but tilted more my way than she expected. Her face tightened when she realized it. No outburst, just that stunned, hollow look of someone who finally hit a wall they thought they'd avoid. It didn't feel like winning, felt like triage. A judge had just confirmed the damage, handed me what was left, and told me to figure out how to live with it. After court, everybody else moved on. My coworkers stopped asking how I was. Jake went back to his own life. The world has reset. I was the only one still replaying scenes at 2 a.m., lying on my back on the couch, staring at a ceiling fan I never turned on. Most nights I ended up in the garage. Old radio low, one beer sweating on the workbench. The smell of oil and cut would settling me down more than any pep talk could. I'd stand there surrounded by half-finished projects and feel like one of them. Started with good intentions, never really put together right. I told myself I was fine, functional. I went to work, paid bills, answered doing okay when people asked. But every time my phone buzzed, my stomach tightened. Every time a woman laughed too easily, I caught myself wondering who else she was performing for. Eventually, the noise in my head got louder than my pride. So I walked into a therapist's office. Dr. Lisa Ramirez. A small room, 2 chairs, a box of tissues parked between them like some kind of warning label. She didn't push a notebook at me or ask me about my childhood right away. She just let the silence sit until I filled it. I gave her the highlight reel. The call, the proof, the side life, the court. She nodded, asked a few clean, simple questions. Then she hit me with one that actually landed. When did you first start ignoring your gut? She asked. Not why did she do it? Not how do you feel? When did you leave yourself? We walked it back. The late girls' nights. The phone flipped face down. The new perfume. The way my chest tightened and I swallowed it down because I didn't want to be controlling or insecure. Every time I'd chosen peace over honesty, I'd abandoned myself a little more. I didn't cry over losing Kelly. I cried over realizing how easy I'd been to gaslight once I stopped trusting my own reading of reality. Rebuilding wasn't some montage. It was boring. Walks around the block that turned into real workouts. Actually cooking food instead of living on takeout. Going to bed before midnight. Cleaning the house not because someone might see it, but because I lived there. Picking up old hobbies. Short hikes in the foothills. Tinkering with tools. Fixing small things just to prove to myself I still could. Months later, at a friend's backyard fire pit, I met Hannah Brooks. Graphic designer. Paint on her jeans. Hair pulled back like she'd been halfway through a project when someone dragged her out. She laughed like she meant it, not like she was auditioning. We started with small talk. Work, music, stupid stories about bad bosses. Later, coffee. Then we swapped war stories about betrayal. Her ex had his own secret life, different details, same gut punch. The difference this time is we didn't pretend trust was magic. We sat across from each other and laid out rules like adults. No secret accounts. No hidden phones. If something feels off, we say it before it festers. No one gets to call the other crazy for having a gut reaction. Trust, for us, isn't blind faith. It's 2 people agreeing not to turn each other into investigations. I'm not going to tell you I'm healed, or that Hannah fixed me. That's not her job. What changed is simpler. I finally stopped abandoning myself to keep someone else comfortable. It showed up on a Tuesday. I was at my desk after work, half watching some pointless video, when the notification slid in. From Kelly Walker, subject, I'm sorry. My first reaction wasn't anger. It was a kind of tired amusement. Of course, the arc was predictable. Denial, defense, court, then months later, the soft focus apology. I clicked it. It was long. She talked about therapy, about finally understanding her patterns, about how she'd been spiraling before we ever met. She listed good memories like evidence. Road trips, holidays, inside jokes, and threaded them through with lines like, if only we'd communicated better, and if only you hadn't been so busy, maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone. That's the trick, by the way. Wrap the knife in flowers. There were real apologies in there. I won't pretend otherwise. She owns some things. But under the I'm so sorry, and you didn't deserve that, there was a quiet reframe. This wasn't her choosing betrayal over and over. It was our marriage breaking down. Shared blame, soft edges. Part of me wondered if I should respond. Meet her. Get closure. Say my piece. Instead, I forwarded the email to Dr. Ramirez. We sat with it in session. So, she asked, what are you hoping to get if you reply? I thought about it. Really thought. An explanation? I'd read 100 versions of that already in her texts to other men. An apology? The words were right there on the screen. Validation? A judge had already handed me that in a beige courtroom. There was nothing she could say that would rewind any of it or give me back the years I'd spent ignoring my gut. Honestly, I said, I think I just want her to recognize how badly she messed up. She might, Dr. Ramirez said. She might not, but you already recognize it. Do you need her to certify your experience for it to be real? That landed harder than anything in Kelly's email. I went home, sat at the kitchen table, and opened the message one more time. Read it slowly all the way through. Then I hovered over reply. Felt that old pull to explain myself, to be fair, to be the bigger person. Instead, I hit delete, not out of spite, out of self-respect. I didn't need a post-credit scene to a movie I'd already walked out of. So let me talk to you now, the guy in a too-quiet house, scrolling through proof he never wanted. Is she cheating? Is he cheating? That's not a referendum on your worth. It's a mirror of their character. You can tear yourself apart trying to find the one thing you could have done differently. But here's the truth. Plenty of men work long hours and don't get betrayed. Plenty of women feel lonely and don't blow up their marriage in secret. The real mistake I made wasn't missing the signs. It was silencing myself when my gut saw them. If love starts to feel like a full-time investigation, checking phones, tracking locations, connecting receipts, it's not love anymore. It's you doing unpaid security work for someone who already made up their mind. If you're in that moment, standing on the edge of the bomb going off, hear this from a man who's already walked through it. Answering the call didn't ruin my life. It exposed the truth that was already there. Not answering would have just kept me living in a lie a little longer. That Sunday was the worst day of my marriage and the first day of my real life. If you're where I was, don't sugarcoat it, don't romanticize it, and don't let it turn you into a permanent victim. Learn your lesson, rebuild from the inside out, and don't ever abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable again. If you've got your own story, stick around. Comment. Share it. Not for drama, not for revenge, but because men need places where we stop pretending this doesn't happen and start talking about what we do next.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.